Dr. Sindy Zemura Bernard wears multiple hats as a humanitarian, social entrepreneur and the CEO of the Southern Africa Embrace Foundation. Her foundation empowers women and youth in Africa by bringing brilliant minds and innovators to the forefront of sustainability and development. The organization has been focusing on African countries, including Botswana, Lesotho, Eswatini, South Africa, Malawi, Zimbabwe, and recently expanding to Ghana and Nigeria. And she now joins us via our video link. And thank you so much, Sindy, for joining us this evening here on SABC News. And I mean, happy International Women's Day to you, firstly. And as we celebrate or commemorate this day, tell us about the significance of this day to you and many women around the world.
Hi, Mbali. Good evening. Thank you so much for having me today. Happy International Women's Day to you and all the women around the world, all the women in South Africa. It is my pleasure to be here, and there is quite much significance in celebrating women every day, but I guess on International Women's Day, there's even more significance. As I was listening to the Secretary General talk and share from his heart why he's employing all of us to really celebrate women and to make this day very important, I echo everything that he said. And for me, particularly, I'm celebrating my rights as a woman and the rights of every other woman out there to actually say that women's rights are human rights, while also celebrating the achievements that women that came before us and those that will be coming behind us will bring to the stage of equality. We're also celebrating the innovators, the thought thinkers, our mothers that groomed us to be who we are today. We're also celebrating, the thrives that women have brought in to where we are today, because we're really standing on the shoulders of those that came before us. And we're also celebrating our own vulnerability. We're vulnerable. So let's celebrate that. Let's also celebrate our differences, but also realizing that we're all together for one common goal, and that is to close the gender inequality gap.
And talking about your foundation, South African Embrace Foundation, of course, it is making strides, advocating and supporting the well-being of women, the youth and children. What would you say is the formula here?
The formula is really the narrative. I always say to my team and to people that we come across that when you change your mentality, you can change everything, but also believing that in a matter of inequality, everyone is equal, everyone is born equal. And our formula is really walking and talking that, to say that there should not be someone who's unable to go to school. There should not be a girl who's staying at home because they are considered unequal. We should not be talking of poverty in Africa or in Southern Africa or in any other part of the world because we as people are not getting up and doing something for ourselves. So really our formula is changing the narrative about who we are, what we believe in. We believe that there's possibility for life for everybody to prosper. And so when we go out in the field, our first line of duty is to tell everybody that we're all equal and that we are all able. And we see this change in the 14 years that the organization has been running, where we're going to poverty-stricken communities. And what we really try to push the vision on is, first of all, education, but also ensuring that we bring a sense of belonging to every member of that community, a sense of belonging for every member of the family, but also, again, really driving their dreams, to tell them that their dreams are valid. And that's what really drives the team, which is based out of Canada, but really most of our field advisors are located around Southern Africa.
And I must say that you have a representation, throughout various countries in this world, but you are really based in Canada, as you are saying, and you hop in between the African continent and, of course, where you are based. Is this the standard you are setting for everyone to follow?
It's not the standard that I'm setting for everyone to follow, but basically when we thought of how we're going to run the organization 14 years ago, my duty was to really take advantage of where I am, being an African living in the diaspora, and I thought there could be much impact that I could bring home by being in a country such as Canada, which gives opportunities, and we were able to do that. But it doesn't end there. We started in Southern Africa because I am from the Southern African region of the continent. But as you mentioned in the beginning, we have recently expanded to West Africa, and we continue to do that. What we want to emphasize is global partnerships. When you look at the UN sustainability goals, it talks about partnerships for the goals, and that's what we're trying to exemplify here, to say as much as we are based in Canada, we do work and are supported by Canadian people, we're supported by also a global community, but we also take our work outside of Canada to the 7 and are now going 9 countries that we've been represented in, and we continue to grow. So for me, it's also a lesson for some African young women or people of minorities that might leave their countries and migrate to go overseas, to say, you don't have to stop at not doing anything. You can do something no matter where you are. Just use the opportunity of where you're located to impact someone else's life, regardless of where they are in the world. And that's exactly what we're doing at Southern Africa Embrace Foundation.
And of course, I mean, your work has empowered a number of people under your wing. Would you say that you are beginning to see the fruits of your work?
Most definitely. We see the fruits of our work from the very day that we sat down and wrote the vision and decided that we are going to do this. And for me, Mbali, I always say it's not even a matter of the numbers. I know the stats are out there, the facts are out there. We can talk today and say we're currently working with about 28,000 women who are farmers, smallholder farmers, and youth who are entrepreneurs. We've put over 4,000 children through education in the past 14 years, but it never comes to the number of people that we've impacted. But just knowing on a daily basis that when my team and I get together, our desire is to ensure that we are affecting other people's lives in a positive way, and that's really what drives. And I do see now the results of that. You know, even from my own children, I had to sit down with them, and when they look at me, they've always asked, "Mom, why do you travel outside of Canada? Can't you impact people that are in Canada?" And I always tell them that at the end of the day, you just have to know that wherever you are, you do make that difference. And we see it from people who come to us and they recognize the work that we're doing. And we hear of children and we see them who've gone into school, graduated from elementary school, and now they're in secondary school or doing other great things out there because they can point at us and say there's somebody who cared to listen, and somebody who came in and decided to help me make a significant difference with my life.
And what would you say are your hopes for your foundation, you know, in continuing to touch and change a number of people's lives?
Mbali, we recently launched 2 years ago a fund, and this is why it's today, as we celebrate International Women's Day. It was very happy moments for us because 2 years ago we went on an ambitious goal and we launched a $5 million fund, and we wanted to make sure that the fund is really going to emphasize investing in women. We wanted to make sure that the fund is going to invest in young people in Africa. As you know, Africa is the youngest continent, and with us, again, it goes back to the narratives of what do we say about ourselves, what do we believe about ourselves. We need to put action into that. And so the fund is now on its stages of identifying some of the people, the vulnerable people, the marginalized people who bring forth, impact stories, who have an idea that will transform Africa. And we want to make sure that this fund is really going to be invested in Africa, for Africans, for the women, for us to be able to close these gender inequality gaps, for young people to be empowered, to create employment. And that's really what we're trying to emphasize on, for Africa to come up and say, we have innovators that came from the African continent. And so whatever we are doing right now, we're really looking at saying that let us invest in ourselves. Let us not wait for our governments. Let us not wait for us to be given things into our hands, for us to come in and talk about making a difference. But we are getting up and doing that for one another. Because I mentioned it last year, and I often mention it all the time, to say where I am is because there's somebody else who's actually given me that platform to be able to come up and share my story. And actually now I'm passing on the baton to others that are coming before me.
Dr. Sindy, thank you so much for your time this evening here in SABC News. That is Dr.